This week I was asked a question from one of the coaches who's taking my Bendy and Strong course about one of his Ehlers-Danlos clients. Should he be doing a full body training split or should he be doing a body part style training split? Now, the specific question he asked was, I have my client face-to-face for 2 sessions per week. What's the preferred option? This might seem, if you're a coach who doesn't have much experience with Ehlers-Danlos, it might seem obvious, okay, we're going to do a full body training split. But with EDS, there are some reasons why we might choose full body over not full body, or body part split over doing full body. And there's no right or wrong answer here. It's going to depend on you. It's going to depend on the particular phase that your body is in if you've got Ehlers-Danlos. And this might fluctuate over time. So there are times when I will personally choose a full body training split over a body part, or when a body part might actually be the best option for me over a full body training split. This is actually a question that I got from another person with Ehlers-Danlos this week. So I thought I may as well make a video on it, talk about it from a coach's perspective, but also if you have Ehlers-Danlos, you can apply this in your own training as well. Now, the first thing I want to preface this by saying is that there's no right or wrong with programming. So this program can do really well for this person. This program is completely different, might have a really great result for another person. I've done body part splits. I've done hardcore bodybuilding style training with really niche body part splits. I've done full body training. I've done powerlifting style training. I'm not biased towards one or the other, but if we can understand these different approaches, we will get better results, because understanding these different approaches is just more tools in your toolbox. So let's talk about some of the benefits specifically for Ehlers-Danlos and hypermobility, some of the benefits of each, and why we might choose more of a full body style training where we train the whole body or different parts of the body in each session, or if we should do more of a body part split where we perhaps do upper body in one session and lower body in another session, or a more intense body part split where it might be shoulders in one session, chest in another session, back in another session, legs in another session. So let's talk about this. So we've got full body training, we've got body part split. Let's talk about some of the times you might choose a more full body style for your training. So one of the big ones for Ehlers-Danlos and hypermobility is if your training is currently inconsistent. So let me give you an example. This past couple of weeks, I've been getting a lot of migraines. I've been having weird fatigue symptoms. So if I was doing a training program where I was doing upper body in one session, lower body in another session, or even something a little bit more split up, like chest and back in one session, shoulders and arms in one session, legs in another session. If I am sick that week and I can only train 2 of those days, I'm missing out on training some potentially major body parts. So for example, if I was able to complete my 2 upper body sessions and I missed my lower body session, this now means that my training is quite incomplete for that week. I have not trained my lower body at all. So if for whatever reason with the Ehlers-Danlos, if we are having inconsistencies across our symptoms, across our training week, this might be a really nice reason to do a full body training program, because what you get there is you don't have to potentially miss out on a whole body part within that training week. So if I was doing a full body training program and I still had these inconsistencies, then I can rest easy knowing, okay, I only got 2 of my 3 sessions done this week, but those 2 sessions I trained upper body, I trained lower body, I trained some pushing muscles, I trained some pulling muscles. So I'm roughly balanced still. So the next reason why we might choose something that's more full body over a body part split is if we have a particular body part that fatigues within that session. So let's say you are okay to train your lower body. Let's say your legs are fine to train, but you notice that third exercise in is where things start to maybe hurt, or you don't really have the focus because your muscles are really tired. You don't have the endurance within that session to keep training your legs within that session. This might be a really nice example of when we would do a full body training program rather than a body part split, because then we can break up the particular muscle group across the training week rather than concentrating it in on one particular session. Now, another example is if you were rehabbing something in particular. So let's give an example that I have personally is I have really overactive lower back muscles at the moment. And every time I'm trying to do my hip hinging movements, my glutes aren't really doing their job. My abs aren't really kicking in properly. My low back is just getting really angry. Now, I'm working on this. I'm doing my rehab exercises that are helping me with this, but I might get to the point where the small stabilizing muscles that are really important for me to do those exercises properly are getting fatigued if I'm just slamming them with exercise after exercise within that session. So that is an example of where we might want to take a more full body approach, because then we just have a smaller dose of each of those body parts and it's spread out across the training week. Now, tying into this, we get more frequent practice. So if we are wanting to learn a particular movement or wanting to retrain a movement pattern. So in that example I just gave, if I'm wanting to, really get enough practice in across the week using these correct muscles instead of my low back muscles taking over all the time. I know I can't handle a huge amount in one session. I can just handle a small dose in each session, but I want to really drill this into my body. I want to teach my body. So this is a more distributed way to practice. So rather than doing it all in one session where we just slam that body part in that session, we're getting it basically spread out throughout the week. So we're getting more practice of it. So our nervous system can learn how to do this a little bit better. Plus we're not doing bad practice because we're not getting to the point of fatigue where we can't do it properly anymore, but we need to finish our leg session. So we keep going and we practice the wrong thing. So from a learning how to move properly, rehab perspective, correcting things perspective, I said to someone recently, I think you would benefit from doing a full body session, but doing it 3 times a week, because this actually gives you the chance to practice this correct movement more frequently. And tying back into this point, if you're also inconsistent with your training because of flare-ups and other things that might be happening, we still get that practice into a nice amount across the week. Now, the last point that I'm going to put here is this is generally really, regardless of whether you've got Ehlers-Danlos or not, this is probably a preferred way to train for a beginner. And it's in a large part because of these different reasons. So we get more frequent practice. So when you're a beginner, you need to learn the movement patterns. So if we're doing different movement patterns in every single session, or different body parts in every single session, you only get 1 practice per week. Whereas if we're doing a more of a full body approach, we might do 1 squat variation on Monday and a different squat variation on Tuesday or Wednesday. You're still getting the different squatting practice. What we also know with beginners is they tend to recover maybe a little bit faster, because not because they've got better recovery, but because the stimulus that we're giving them, because they're a beginner, is not that hard. So they're able to recover and do these full body sessions throughout the week a little bit easier. We also can have this coming into play with a beginner because they will generally not have the muscle endurance to really push a body part. And that's when they'll start to be doing the bad technique, or, their technique will be regressing as they're doing the exercises because they've fatigued. If you just slam them and make them do leg exercise after leg exercise, chances are they don't actually have the endurance to continue on through that session with the right technique, which means that they're doing the wrong practice and potentially hurting themselves. So this is sort of this beginner point. It applies whether you're Ehlers-Danlos or not. But these points here, the point that I'm making in this video, these are some of the reasons with Ehlers-Danlos why you might choose a full body approach to your training. Now with a body part split, and I'm considering this on a bit of a spectrum here, so it's not like I'm saying you're either doing full body or you're doing, 5 different muscle groups, 1 in each session. So this might be an upper lower split in the body part split. It might be a push pull leg split. It might just be something, basically we're not trying to hit some of the major muscle groups in each of the sessions. We're just trying to really target in on this area or this area or this area. So I consider these on a bit of a spectrum. I've got them divided 1 and 2, but I do consider them on a bit of a spectrum here. So one of the first draw cards for a body part split is it can be used as a bit more of an advanced training tool. So with bodybuilding, if you've worked with a bodybuilding coach, a lot of the time they prefer the body part splits. They might have their reasons for doing a body part split. So this might be, if you're quite advanced in your lifting, people with EDS can be advanced lifters. So this might be a reason why you would choose this one. Now, I would say that this should never overrule these things. If these things are happening, we should be choosing this over this. So the advanced training tool, I've seen this mistake happen with people with Ehlers-Danlos where they're working with a coach who doesn't understand EDS. They put them straight on this as an advanced training tool, but the person is also getting this and they're getting this and they're getting this. So that's when it can be not the right coaching decision. But if the ducks are in a row, this might be a reason why someone chooses the body part split. Now, the next reason is very specific to Ehlers-Danlos here. If we have a body part that struggles to recover. So the next reason we might choose a body part split is if you have a body part that struggles to recover. So what this might mean is, let's say your legs, no matter how easy or how hard you go, you always take 5 or 6 days. They are really, really struggling. You might have a particular injury mechanism there that you find, okay, it's okay if I just train once a week for this body part, but if I'm training it multiple times a week, that's when it starts to hurt. Now, obviously in that instance, we also want to uncover what the reason behind that is. We want to figure out what the reason is that you're getting pain, but we also want to do things that promote pain-free training. So if you have a body part that's just really struggling to recover, this might be a reason why we would choose to do more of a body part split, because then you're not hitting your legs 3 times throughout the week. You're giving them enough recovery, maybe once through the week or once every 5 or 6 days. So that's another reason. Now, tying into this, you might find that a particular body part gets very sore no matter what you do. So let's say that the body part is not doing this. It can go for as long as you need during that session, but if you do a tiny bit, it gets sore for days. If you do a lot, it gets sore for days. So this might be an instance where we would choose, okay, I'm just going to do a body part split because then at least I can train this muscle properly and then I can give it a full week or however many days rest it needs. Now with this, I want to stress that you need to be able to train consistently in order for this body part split to be effective, because if you are consistently leaving out a training session across your week, you will have a part of your body that is getting undertrained unless that has been planned into your program. So that's another approach that you can use with Ehlers-Danlos, is to give people, say, a 3-day-a-week training program with an optional 4th day. So this is where, okay, maybe you could do a body part split here, upper, lower, or push-pull legs, with an optional extra day of a particular part of the body that it doesn't matter if you can't do that. So basically we want to make sure that we're training consistently, because if you are leaving out a particular body part, that's going to become unbalanced in your training. So I went to do some final edits on this and I realized I never actually filmed a conclusion. So here we are. I hope that this video gives you a bit of insight into how you might approach this decision-making process for someone with Ehlers-Danlos or hypermobility. There's no right or wrong answers here, and it's going to change depending on the circumstances, depending on the person, and that will even fluctuate over time. So not only the person's circumstances might fluctuate over time, but the person themselves, their symptoms, how their Ehlers-Danlos is presenting at that point can fluctuate. So it's a case-by-case basis, and even then it's a moment by moment sometimes, or training program by training program decision that you might make. So if you are making this decision, I think one of the main things, the main differences between how you might make this decision for someone with EDS versus someone who is healthy, able-bodied and non-EDS, sometimes the programming decisions that might seem like a no-brainer. For example, the question that my client had, how do I approach this for a client with Ehlers-Danlos and I'm training them 2 days per week? It might seem like a no-brainer to a lot of coaches. I know a lot of coaches I would talk to would say, do full body over those 2 days. But if the person has Ehlers-Danlos, they may still really struggle to recover if they do some upper body stuff in one session and then we want to repeat some more upper body stuff, even if it's different upper body stuff in that second session. So with Ehlers-Danlos, sometimes the decisions that we make might seem a little bit counterintuitive or a little bit going against the grain of what we might do as a standardized approach. But any good coach knows this. You want to listen to your client and find what's right for them. As always, we want to make sure that you're doing pain-free training, or your client is doing pain-free training. With Ehlers-Danlos, we don't want to push through pain. Pain is something that we live with, but it's not something that we have to train with. So just be really careful of that. Choose the option that allows you to train without pain. Choose the option that allows you to expand your capacity rather than shrinking your capacity down. I hope this has helped. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.